It was just a simple AC repair, or at least that's what I thought. My son's friend offered to help, and I was grateful. But what happened next? I never saw it coming. And trust me, you won't believe it either. Stay with me till the end, because this story will leave you speechless. The heat was unbearable, the kind that sticks to your skin, making every breath feel heavy. My house felt like a furnace, each room suffocating, and the air conditioner had completely given up. I pressed a few buttons on the thermostat, hoping for a miracle, but nothing happened. I sighed, wiping the sweat off my forehead. There was no way I could last another day in this heat. That's when my son Jordan walked into the room casually sipping his iced lemonade. "Mom, why don't you just get it fixed?" he asked. I shook my head. "I called a technician, but they're booked for the next 2 weeks." Jordan frowned, thinking for a moment before his face lit up. "Hey, I think Leo can fix it." Leo. The name rang a bell. He was one of Jordan's close friends, someone who had been around the house a few times. A polite, quiet kid with a confident smile and an easy-going attitude. "He's really good at this stuff," Jordan continued. "He fixed our friend Mason's AC last summer, and he won't charge you crazy prices like those companies do." I hesitated. I barely knew Leo, but at this point I was desperate. I trusted my son's judgment, and if Leo could fix the problem quickly, why not? "All right," I agreed. "Call him and see if he's available." Jordan grabbed his phone, sent a quick text, and within minutes, his face lit up. "He's on his way." About an hour later, there was a knock on the door. When I opened it, Leo stood there with a friendly smile, a tool bag slung over his shoulder. "Hey, Mrs. Carter," he greeted smoothly. "I heard you're having some trouble with the AC." I smiled, stepping aside to let him in. "You have no idea how much I appreciate this." Leo chuckled, setting his bag down. "No problem at all. Let's take a look and see what we're dealing with." He moved through the house with ease, his eyes scanning the vents and thermostat like he had done this 100 times before. I followed behind, watching as he worked. "So, how long have you been fixing AC units?" I asked, trying to make conversation. He shrugged, pulling out a small screwdriver. "A couple of years. My uncle owns an HVAC business, and I used to help him during summers. Picked up a few tricks." I nodded, impressed. "Well, that's great. I don't know anything about this stuff." He shot me a quick glance, his smile lingering a little longer than expected. "That's all right. Some things are best left to people who know what they're doing." His tone was light, almost teasing, but something about it made me pause. I brushed it off, chalking it up to my imagination. Leo got to work, removing the AC cover and inspecting the inside. "Looks like there's some build-up here," he muttered. "Might be causing the problem." I leaned in slightly, trying to see what he was pointing at. "Is it bad?" "Nah," he said, wiping some dust off his hands. "I just need to clean it up and check the wiring. Shouldn't take long." Relieved, I stepped back. "Can I get you something to drink? It's so hot today." "Water would be great," he replied with a grin. I walked into the kitchen, grabbing a bottle from the fridge. As I returned, I noticed something odd. Leo wasn't working on the AC. Instead, he was standing near the hallway, looking around the house. The second he saw me, he quickly turned back to the unit, pretending to be busy. A strange feeling crept up my spine. I handed him the water, forcing a smile. "Here you go." He took a long sip, wiping his mouth. "Thanks." Then his eyes met mine again, holding my gaze for just a second too long. I felt my stomach twist. There was something in his expression, something I couldn't quite place. I told myself I was overthinking. Leo was my son's friend. He was just helping out. But deep inside, something felt off, and I had no idea that this was just the beginning. The air inside the house felt thick, not just from the heat, but from something else. Something unseen, something crawling beneath the surface. I watched as Leo crouched in front of the AC unit, his hands moving with ease, adjusting wires, dusting off debris. His confidence was clear. He knew what he was doing. But my mind wasn't focused on the repair anymore. I kept thinking about the way he had looked around earlier, that lingering stare, the way his eyes had locked onto mine, not with the polite gaze of a young man helping out, but with something else, something that made me uneasy. I shook the thought away. Maybe I was just reading too much into it. Maybe he was just being friendly. Trying to act normal, I leaned against the counter, forcing a casual tone. "So, Leo, do you do this often? Fix things for people?" He looked up, smiling. "Yeah, I like helping people. Not everyone can afford professional repairs, you know?" There it was again. That smile, the kind that lingered a second too long, like he was waiting for a reaction. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. "That's nice of you." He returned to the AC, unscrewing another panel. "You know," he said after a pause, "most of my friends' mums are kind of old school. Strict, serious. You're different, though." I blinked, caught off guard. "Different?" He wiped his hands on his jeans, then looked at me again, his gaze steady. "Yeah, you're cool, easy to talk to." I felt my chest tighten. There was nothing outright wrong with what he said, but something about the way he said it made my skin crawl. I forced a chuckle, trying to steer the conversation in a safer direction. "Well, I try, but Jordan might not agree with you. He thinks I'm overprotective." Leo smirked. Overprotective, huh? I wouldn't have guessed. I shifted uncomfortably. Well, I am his mom. He didn't respond right away. He just held my gaze for a moment, then turned back to the AC unit. A few minutes passed in silence, the only sound being the quiet clinking of his tools. I took a deep breath, trying to shake off the weird feeling creeping over me. Then suddenly he turned to me again. Hey, can you help me with something? I hesitated. Sure, what do you need? He pointed at a section inside the unit. Just hold this wire here for a second while I adjust the connection. I stepped forward cautiously, crouching beside him. As I reached out, I felt his arm brush against mine. Too close, too intentional. I pulled back immediately. Actually, I don't think I should be messing with wires. I might make it worse. He let out a small laugh, his tone smooth. Don't worry, I wouldn't let you mess anything up. I forced another chuckle and stood up, stepping away again. My pulse was quickening now. I could feel it. Something was off. Leo sighed, acting like nothing had happened. All right, almost done here. I nodded, keeping my distance. Then, just as I was about to move toward the kitchen, he spoke again. So, do you live alone? My heart skipped a beat. I turned slowly, keeping my expression calm. No, I lied. My husband will be home soon. Leo's face didn't change right away, but I saw it. The flicker in his eyes, the slight tension in his jaw. Then, just like that, he smiled. That's cool. But I wasn't fooled. A sharp chill ran through me despite the suffocating heat. My instincts were screaming at me now, loud and clear. Something was very, very wrong. The air in the room wasn't just hot. It was thick. Thick with something I couldn't quite name. My fingers curled around the edge of the kitchen counter as I watched Leo from a distance. He was back to working on the AC, or at least that's what it looked like. But my mind kept replaying his words. So, do you live alone? It was a simple question, innocent even. But in that moment, standing there with sweat trickling down my back, I knew it wasn't. I swallowed hard, keeping my face neutral. Yeah, my husband gets home soon, I repeated, trying to make it sound more natural this time. Leo didn't say anything. He just nodded, his hands moving slowly as he tightened a few screws. I knew I had to get out of that room. I didn't want to stand there, pretending everything was fine. Pretending that I wasn't suddenly hyper-aware of every movement he made, every glance he stole in my direction. I'll be right back, I muttered, stepping away before he could respond. I walked toward the hallway, but I didn't go far. Instead, I grabbed my phone from the table and quickly typed out a message to Jordan. Me. Hey, when are you coming home? I hit send and waited. My heart pounded in my chest, my fingers gripping the phone a little too tightly. Seconds passed. Then a minute. No reply. I exhaled sharply, trying to calm myself. Maybe I really was overreacting. Maybe I was just being paranoid, but my gut said otherwise. I turned, peeking back into the living room. Leo was still there, crouched in front of the AC unit. But then he did something that made my stomach drop. He looked around. Not at the AC, not at his tools, but at the house. His eyes flickered to the hallway, the windows, the door, like he was assessing something, like he was making sure we were really alone. I took a slow step back, my mind racing. I needed a plan. I couldn't let him know I was scared. Taking a deep breath, I forced my voice to sound light. Hey, how's it going? Almost done? Leo turned, smiling. Yeah, just a few more minutes. His voice was casual, easygoing. But now I wasn't buying it. I needed him out of my house. Great, I said quickly. Actually, I just remembered I have to leave soon, so no rush, but... I stopped. Leo was staring at me. Not smiling, not blinking, just watching. A slow smirk curled at the edge of his lips. Leave? My throat went dry. Yeah, I lied. I have an appointment. Leo didn't move for a moment. Then, just as quickly as the strange expression came, it vanished. He nodded, turning back to his work. Got it, I'll wrap this up. I let out a quiet breath, but I wasn't relieved. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. I needed Jordan home. Now I grabbed my phone again, my fingers shaking slightly as I typed, Me, Jordan, come home now, it's important. I sent it and waited, nothing. Then, after what felt like forever, 3 dots appeared. My chest tightened. Jordan, what's up? I exhaled in relief, quickly typing back, Me, just get here fast, please. The dots appeared again. Jordan, on my way. I gripped the phone tightly, my pulse pounding in my ears. Just a little longer. I just had to keep calm, keep my distance, and wait for my son to walk through that door. But then, Leo spoke again. You seem nervous. My breath caught. I turned to find him standing, wiping his hands on a rag, watching me carefully. I forced a smile. Just a lot on my mind. He tilted his head slightly, as if studying me. Then, to my surprise, he let out a small chuckle. You don't have to be so tense. I don't bite. The words sent a shiver down my spine. I knew then. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't being paranoid. This wasn't just an AC repair anymore. This was something else, and I had no idea what would happen next. I stood frozen, my mind racing. Leo's words echoed in my ears. "You don't have to be so tense. I don't bite." There was something unsettling in the way he said it, something laced with amusement, like he was enjoying my discomfort. I forced a laugh, trying to keep my voice steady. "Yeah, sorry, just a little overwhelmed with the heat." Leo grinned, tossing the rag onto his tool bag. "Well, good news. I think I fixed the issue." Relief flooded me, but it was mixed with something else, urgency. I wanted him out. "Now, that's great," I said quickly. "How much do I owe you?" He waved a hand. "Don't worry about it. Consider it a favour." "A favour?" The way he said it sent another chill down my spine. "No, really," I insisted, moving toward the counter where my purse was. "I'd feel better paying you for your time." Leo stepped forward, closing the space between us. I stopped. My breath hitched. "No need," he said smoothly. "Like I said, I like helping people. Every instinct in my body screamed at me. I needed to get him out." I grabbed my phone again, glancing at the screen. "Jordan, please hurry," Leo noticed. His eyes flickered to the phone, then back to me. "Waiting on someone?" he asked, his tone casual, but there was something behind it, something calculated. I forced a smile. "Yeah, Jordan should be home any minute." Leo's jaw tensed. It was quick, barely noticeable, but I caught it. He exhaled, stretching his arms like he was in no rush to leave. "Cool, guess I'll just finish packing up." I nodded quickly. "Yeah, of course." I stepped back, creating distance between us. Every muscle in my body was tense as I watched him move slowly, almost deliberately, collecting his tools one by one. Then, just as he picked up his bag, there was a sound. A car door slamming. My heart leapt. Jordan. I didn't even realise I had been holding my breath until I let out a quiet exhale. Leo's head turned toward the door. He stood still for a moment, like he was debating something. Then his lips curled into a smirk. "Well, looks like your son's home." I swallowed hard. "Yeah, thanks again for your help." Leo nodded, slinging his tool bag over his shoulder. "No problem." He walked to the door, but before he opened it, he turned back one last time, and what he said next sent a shiver down my spine. "You know," he murmured, his eyes locking onto mine, "you really are different from most moms." I said nothing. I just gripped the counter behind me, waiting for him to leave. Then, finally, he pulled the door open and stepped outside. The moment he was gone, I let out a shaky breath. I turned, just as Jordan walked in, his face scrunched with confusion. "Hey, why'd you tell me to rush home?" I opened my mouth, but no words came out. How could I explain what had just happened? That feeling in my gut, that unshakable sense that something was wrong. I didn't know if I was safe anymore, and worse, I didn't know if this was really over. The minutes dragged by in the heat, thick with tension. Despite Leo's calm demeanour, I couldn't shake the sense that something wasn't right. My thoughts kept spinning. What was it about his words that had unsettled me? I glanced over at him again. He was still fiddling with the AC, but there was an odd stillness to his movements. It was like he was taking his time, more time than necessary. His every action seemed deliberate, like he was aware of my every move. I looked down at my phone again. No new messages from Jordan. My eyes darted toward the door. I wished he would hurry up. I wasn't sure what I was waiting for, but I needed the comfort of someone familiar. I needed to know that everything was normal again. Leo had said something earlier that still echoed in my mind. "You don't seem like other moms." Was it just a passing comment? Or was there something he was trying to communicate with that strange look he gave me? I couldn't put my finger on it, but a part of me felt like I was standing on the edge of something I didn't fully understand. Finally, Leo stood up, wiping his hands on his jeans. "All right, Mrs. Carter, your AC is good to go. Shouldn't have any more issues." I exhaled in relief. "Thank you, Leo. I really appreciate it." His smile was warm, but there was something unsettling about it. "Any time." He started packing up his tools, and I could feel my heart rate return to normal, but then, just as he grabbed his bag, he turned to me again. "You know," he said, voice softer now, "I really like coming here. You're the only one who actually listens. Most people don't even care enough to ask." I didn't know how to respond. I opened my mouth, but the words got stuck in my throat. Leo took a step closer, almost like he was trying to close the gap between us, and something in my stomach twisted. Before I could react, a car pulled up outside. My breath hitched. It was Jordan. I glanced at Leo quickly, silently praying for him to leave. But instead of heading toward the door, Leo paused, his eyes scanning the hallway. Then, to my shock, he turned back to me, his smile fading just enough for me to see the darkness lurking behind it. "I guess I should go now," he said, his voice low. "But I'll be around, Mrs. Carter. You know where to find me." My pulse quickened. What was he saying? Why did it feel like his words had a hidden meaning? Before I could respond, the door opened, and Jordan walked in, looking surprised to see Leo still there. "Hey, Mom, everything good?" Jordan asked, walking over to me. Leo's eyes flickered to him, then back to me, his lips curling into a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Yeah, everything's fine, just fixing the AC like I promised." Jordan nodded, his attention shifting to me. Thanks, Leo. Appreciate it. Leo gave a half-hearted wave, then turned and walked out of the house, leaving me standing there, my heart pounding in my chest. As the door closed behind him, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding, but something was off. I could feel it. Jordan looked at me, frowning. You okay, Mom? You seem a little weird. I forced a smile, trying to push the nagging feeling aside. I'm fine, sweetheart, just a little tired from the heat. But inside I knew it wasn't just the heat. There was something more. Something about Leo that I couldn't shake. I watched him leave, his figure disappearing down the street. I felt the weight of the unease that had settled in my chest. He wasn't just some kid helping out anymore. He had crossed a line, something I couldn't explain but felt deep down. Jordan came over and hugged me. It's okay, Mom, everything's fine. But I wasn't so sure. I couldn't forget the way Leo had looked at me, the way he had spoken to me, the way he had lingered in the house longer than necessary. I didn't know if it was just my imagination or if something truly sinister was lurking behind that charming smile of his, but I couldn't ignore the feeling in the pit of my stomach that told me I had just let something dangerous slip past me, and I didn't know if I could ever feel truly safe again.